My name is Jim Thomas, and welcome to the Fitness Management Update. Our topic today is types of gym prospecting calls. And there's several calls that you're going to make, when you're making daily phone calls in your gym. This is a sample of those. You're going to make, some calls, while they might not be literally cold, they could be very cold. I mean, folks that maybe canceled a year ago, folks that chose not to renew, things of this nature. You're going to have calls that might be considered warm, they're hot calls, the one that everybody wants. You've got, inbound calls, outbound calls, ad response from pay-per-click, or whatever you're doing. You've got referrals. And one of the things that we see, typically happens is when a gym salesperson starts to make these calls, they all make those calls like they're all pretty interested. Like they're, if you look at our line down here, cold to sold, they'll make most of these calls like those folks are about 80%. And when they make those calls, they'll put urgency into it, which is good, but it might be premature in these cases. They'll put urgency into it. They'll try to sell them. They'll try to close them right there. Where in many cases, we need to, build value. We need to establish trust. We need to create interest. We need to understand, powerful why, super objective. Could be a lot of things that could be done. So one of the things we want to suggest for you, if you're on the phone making these calls, make a determination where you're at on cold to sold. If you're not sure where you're at, just assume it's cold. It'd be a good way to look at it. And when something is cold, you need to help create interest. You need to help create trust, confidence, these kind of things. When it's much further along, maybe it's urgency, you have to act now. And so get an understanding of where you're at. It'll help you on these phone calls. And then a lot of times on these calls, I know what the end result is. You want that appointment. You want to get that sale. We understand that. Won't always be possible. I think we all know that. And so sometimes there's secondary purposes of these calls. And these secondary purposes might be to, simply build your pipeline. And so can I call you next week? Okay, so you're going to get a time to call them back. And, you start building in some coaching and some things like this where you start to nurture these folks. Now all of a sudden you've got a nice pipeline to work with. And now you're probably getting a much higher contact rate when you're making your phone calls. So take a look at your calls, make sure you know where you're at on cold to sold, make the appropriate call, and then make sure you follow up. My name is Jim Thomas, and this has been the Fitness Management Update.